July 7th, 1983. This is Joe Todd, an interview with Mr. W.E. Ward.
Arkansas horse thief was caught, hung, and buried in the forks of Pocatello Creek in north end of McCurtain County. I don't think you have that anywhere. The next incident I'm going to tell you about, my father-in-law, W.S. Dickerson, lived at the old Gibson Franchise Ranch up there at the mouth of Pocatello. An old man drove up to his front gate one day a horseback. I asked him, said he was an old prospector, and he'd prospected back north in the Pocatello Mountains. Wanted to know if he could go back up in there. Mr. Dixon told him to go ahead. It was perfectly all right. So he got on his horse and he left. Never did see him anymore. Then later on in 29, after the fire season was over with, the tower had picked up a little smoke back up in there somewhere. And they didn't know for sure where it was. But we had to go and see if we could find the fire and to get the acreage so it could go on a report. Johnny Barrett and I got in a pickup and went up to Gibson Franchise Ranch. And the next morning, we got there that evening. The next morning, Mr. Dixon, John and I got on a horse and started up the East Pocatello Mountain. And on the trail up there, I happened to see this piece of paper. That slick writing tablet paper was pegged to a pine tree with wooden pegs. He'd made a whole bunch of wooden pegs. It must have been 20 or 25 of them. Had that piece of paper pegged to that tree. I should have took down the dates and all this now, but I didn't. We was in a hurry. But anyhow, he says 15 feet from this spot, I had a horse shot from under me in a running gunfight with one of the younger boys. And signed, he went on to explain some more. And it was signed United States Deputy Marshal O.B. Cochran. Well, my father-in-law said, well, I'm going to find out more about that. When we got back to the ranch house, he started investigating. He found out that O.B. Cochran was still alive at Springfield, Missouri. And he'd actually had that gunfight with the younger boys right there on the East Pocatello Mountain. I don't know what that paper is. It's pegged onto a little pine tree. And about 40 or 50 feet from that pine tree was a big tall pile of rocks, pyramids, round pyramid style, stacked up. And that's probably where his horse was shot Monday. Now that part of it is as far as that's concerned. Now we're going back to Oklahoma Forest Service.
Yeah.
The first office that was set up in Broken Bow was Claire O. Doster, with Bill Mitchell his assistant. Eva Townsend was the office girl. Johnny Barrett, Muncie Campbell, and myself, we were the nucleus of the first Oklahoma Forest Service Broken Bow Division that was set up in Broken Bow.
What year was that?
1929, the first day of January, 1929. Doster. Then the summer of 29 was the most disastrous fire season that they'd ever had in that part of the country. after the fire season was over, and checking acres and all, I found 27 dead deer. And I don't know how many dead turkeys and so forth and so on that fire had killed. Found turkey nests with the scorched eggs still in them. All that was in that fire. But, and then after the first year, 1930, Dawson got fired. Oklahoma Fire Service fired him. And they brought Durrell over. He was working for Dirks over in Arkansas. They brought him over, and he would take charge of the Broken Bow Division of the Oklahoma Forest Service. Well, he was a better man to work for. Dawson was one of the roughest men I ever worked for in all my life. I went to work for Dawson, Oklahoma Forest Service, birthday January 1929, for $60 a month. No Sundays, no paid holidays, no paid vacation, no sick leave, nothing. The only time we ever got off was when it'd be on raining on Sunday. We could stay at home that day. It was raining. Otherwise, we had work to do. 6 days a week, 7 days a week. We were septic and cold, 7 days or 9. I've gone as high as 26 hours without a wink of sleep or a bite to eat on the fire line under Dawson. And after sometime, I don't know just when, after the first year of 1930, Dawson got fired. Durrell was brought over. On the first day of November 1930, I was promoted to Ranger, given a $20 a month raise in salary, which had brought me that time up to $90 a month salary, and $50 bonus if I would take them to Neshoba territory. That $50 I had to buy my own car to have it, so I took that $50, made a down the payment to W.A. Lofton at Idabel for a Model A coupe. And that's what I went up to the Neshoba then to find a place to live. Them old hillbillies didn't much like the idea I was coming in up there, because they were afraid we'd snitch on them about their whiskey making or deer killing, but they finally let me rent 2 tourist cottages that I had to live in. And I moved into them on Armistice Day in 1930. I had to build a telephone line then from Honabit to Neshoba to have a telephone. And I was there. Then in 32, due to the Depression, why Dirks had been paying 2 cents an acre for all protected area. All their land is protected. They cut the 2 cents off. So that left it just with state and federal money, which wasn't very much. Buddy Baker had been on Carter Mountain. They'd made a ranger out of him, and he was in the Baptiste territory. Well, he had a little trouble with one of the local residents there, and so they moved him back to Carter Mountain. They moved me from Neshoba to Baptiste, and I was a ranger at Baptiste then. And I had the honor of picking the location for the first 3C camp that was set in the state of Oklahoma at Baptiste, there on Glover River.
And the first CCC camp?
First 3C camp. We stayed there till 35 when the camp was moved to Neshoba. The camp was moved to Neshoba in 35. And I went back to living in the same house history of Oklahoma Forest Service. I got some pictures here. Yeah. Well, Darrell, kind of give me a kind of a dirty deal. The day before the camp was ever selected, George R. Phillips, who was a state forester at the time, and Glenn R. Darrell was a district forester. They drove up my front gate at Baptiste, got me in the car and go out way down in the woods and told me about what Roosevelt was going to do about the three C's and for me to pick out the location for the camp. Phillips wanted to take us old rangers and make us superintendents of camp. Darrell wouldn't let him. He wouldn't let us be the superintendent because we didn't belong to the clique that had worked for Choctaw Lumber Company. Why, we didn't stand a chance, see. But anyhow, I was made a foreman of that company. Made a foreman of that company, which I was with 8 years and 1 month as a foreman in that CC camp. And there's a picture of the camp right there at Baptiste.
This is a 3C camp?
Yeah, that's a 3C camp there.
Yeah.
But I've got this is Carter Mountain Tower at the time that the Oklahoma Forest Service was going on. That's me going up the tower. Buddy Baker was in the tower. That was the residence he lived in.
Yeah.
This is the working crew at 876 at Baptiste.
This is CCC.
The SEC camp. Okay. This picture was made at the time I was on vacation, but this is 876. Like it was at Baptiste.
Now, were you in 876?
I was a foreman in that camp. I'll show you another picture here, Drake. This is the same camp after it went in the show. I'm in this picture. Yeah. This is the old 876 after it went in the show.
Yeah.
This is in the Shoba camp. This is and so forth and so on. Gives a list of all the boys, their names, and all. The camp officers, Mr. Ferguson, the Goss, Porter Harris, myself, and all was in that picture.
Mr. Ward, where were you born?
Born at Antlers, 1902, December the 20th, 1902.
What this photo was?
This is a picture, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for sure, but I think this is a picture of the reserve Guthrie.
And that's the RTC Reserve Training Corps.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you about that. That's me right there.
Yeah.
That's 876.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ferguson was superintendent. Porter Harris had charge of graded crew. That's me.
What'd you do mainly in 876? What kind of work did you do?
We was building roads.
Roads?
I done most all this survey work for building all those roads. It was built by 876 in McCurtain County and Pushmataw County. I laid out the first road across Comish Mountain from Honubby to Albion, which later on the Indian Service went in there and made fields and changed, straightened and made a regular highway out of it, which now is a highway across there from Albion to Honubby. I laid out the first road that's built across there.
Now, you were a surveyor?
I was, I just picked it up, just by
Now, did you use
observation.
the stadia rods and the alidade?
No, they used a little hand level to get the grade lines with. Built the first road up, the first road up, went up on the west end of Comish Mountain to what's called McKinley Rocks. It doesn't ever said about the McKinley Rocks out on the west end of Comish Mountain.
What are the McKinley rocks?
They were great big rocks that cropped out on top of the mountain. You could walk up the south side of this big rock. You could walk up it. You got to the upper edge, and it was 90 feet straight down to the ground. You just cut off just like that. There's 3 or 4 of those big rocks up there, but there's one great big one. They all cropped out on him in the mountain up there. And we built a road from there clear back to Comish Tower, along the top of that mountain all the way. That's the first, might say, Alpine trail that was built, was right across along the top of that mountain. I done that survey work for all that.
So you had no formal training in being a surveyor?
No. Now this is a picture made at Guthrie. This is an old Army mess sergeant, and that's me there. There was 21 of us in this class, subaltern class. This is the only man that beat me out in grades. Grades. Most all these were college professors and so forth, so on. And he's the only man that beat me out in grades.
And what kind of class was it?
And we became, when we finished it, we received those that finished and made the grade, became second lieutenants in the Reserve Army Corps. I had my information, I've lost it, and a newspaper article that I can't imagine what happened to it. I'm the ranger that was shot at north of Eagletown by a firebug in 29, was shot at by a firebug close to Rock Creek. And it was published in the Muskogee Times-Democrat and in the Texarkana Gazette. It's quite an article. Well, my wife was pretty bad sick at that time. It was my first wife who's passed away since then. But my mother was living at Muskogee, in Talihina, and she saw this article in the paper. And I was trying to keep it away from my wife. And she saw it and she called, wanted me to quit my job on account of being shot at that time. Well, Doster was our boss, and in this article he said he was going to arm all his rangers. They'd all be armed when they went to work. None of us ever carried a gun. We wasn't allowed to snitch on the whiskey makers or the deer poachers or anything else. That was strict orders. What we saw in the woods, we kept to ourselves.
What month did you say that was it that they shot at you?
That was in August of 1929 when I was shot at.
How come there are firebugs in the area? What?
Well, they have a funny idea. Some people, or that was done against Dirks. That country, a lot of those people hated Dirks. That was the big end of the trouble, was they hated Dirks. But I don't know what brought on that summer fire season, but it destroyed the whole country. We lost all our turkeys. There was just two little bunches. Turkeys left half, that's all I ever knew of. And there's no telling how many deer was burned up in those big fires. Some of them covered thousands of acres in those fires. And I counted 27 deer carcasses that I found when I was checking acreage to make the reports. I found 27 dead deer and dead end turkeys.
Whenever you had a fire like this, what was the best method to fight it?
The way we fought, we raked a trail with the council or California fire rakes and backfired from this trail that we'd raked from it. See, we'd get out ahead of a fire and rake a trail and backfire and let it burn back towards the fire and let it burn out. Then we'd cut down the old dead snags that catch a fire and all that, and that. Clean it up, move the old logs back as on fire, away from the fire line. We didn't have, Oklahoma don't have the crown fires that they have out west.
What's a crown fire?
That's where it tops out like they have out west, where it goes out the top of the trees. We don't have them down there. They have what's called a surface fire. It all stays on the ground. And you should know about that. You should have learned about that under Durrell. Under Durrell. Is he still alive?
Yep, he lives in Missouri.
He's in Missouri now. Last I knew him, he was in Stillwater. He's retired as a professor of forestry at Stillwater.
Yeah, he was head of the department there for a while.
Yeah, he was a professor of the forestry department there at Stillwater.
Okay. You were born in 1902 in Antlers.
Huh?
You were born in 1902?
1902.
What was your father's name?
William Enoch.
Where was he from?
He was born in Hickman, Kentucky.
And who was your mother?
My mother was Elizabeth Andrews. She was born in Pennsylvania. They were married in San Antonio, 98.
Yep. How come they came to Oklahoma?
And when their dad and mother got married, on the dad and his brothers decided to come to Antlers, which was Indian territory, and go into general mercantile business. Well, it wound up there was a corrugated iron building in Antlers and had their business going, doing all right. New Year's Eve night, 1903, there was a little dive down next to the depot. It was just a dive. They got drunk down there, turned the lamps over, set fire, and it burned out that section of the business district up there. They'd lost everything he had in that fire. He had to go on the road to travel and salesman Spear Hardware Company for 7 years to pay his debts that he owed for that store. He couldn't collect nothing. He had no books. It all burned up in the fire. So he had no way of connecting from that. And they came there in 98. And I was born, raised, and married in the same house at Antlers.
What do you remember of Antlers as a child? How big was the town?
What I can remember is about 1,000 population. The streets was gravel, mud when it rained. The sidewalks were made out of boards, most of them up off the ground. The hogs rooted in under them and stayed there. And if you walked on that board sidewalk, you got fleas all over you, which had come off them hogs. In the center of the square at Antlers was a well and a big iron trough. And all the cows and the horses, hogs had come to that trough for their water. And people all water away from that well. That was before it was in the city waterworks. I was a water jack and carried water when they was digging the ditches for the first sewer line that was ever built in Antlers. I carried water, $1 a day. The first $6 I made, my dad took me down to a fellow named Alexander. I picked out the cloth. He made the suit. He was a tailor. He made me a suit. My dad wouldn't let me have long-legged pants. I had to get down with the knicker style. And up here, if I wanted long legs, my dad wouldn't let me have it. And I saw the tail end of the Doc Gilly Green Boys fight on the square there at Antlers one Sunday night. A bunch of us young sprouts had been up playing poker, Wells Law Office over the First National Bank when it was a 2-story building. And I went broke and I'd come down and I heard the commotion. Before I got out to the street, I heard the commotion. I sneaked around and I could see them fighting out there. And I called and I run north and got away from it. I didn't want to be a witness. So I wasn't a witness when Doc Gilly was taken to the hospital in Paris. He had knife stabs all over him. Long time before he ever lived. One of the Green Indians got his head split open with a chopping axe. They pushed it together and sewed it up. The other one got his knee split open. From then on, he had a stiff leg.
What caused that? What was the reason for that?
They was drunk. Those days, they was plenty there. I was there when O.B. Cochran killed Deputy Sheriff Smith out there in Noley. The night that they brought Cochran in on the train from Clayton, Walter Adair, the old hair-lip guy, was the only one that had guts to go out and arrest O.B. Cochran. he went out and arrested old B. Cochran out there in Nolan. Brought him over to Clayton. They put him on that little train that come in there 9 something at night. And he brought him in. Well, they didn't get off on the regular side. They got off back the other way and went out. Had him in jail before the crowd knew about it. I expect it was 2,500, 3,000 people crowded down the station platform. Big portion of them was armed. They intended to lynch O.B. Cochran that night. All those people went out there around Rattan and all who were friends of Smith, who was the deputy sheriff at the time. The reason they knew about this fight, Smith had taken his nephew with him out to Nolan to serve all these warrants for O.B. Cochran and a whole bunch of them. And so when the shooting started, Smith's nephew took a high dive through the window, rolled across the street and down the hill in the little river, swam the river, and went over to people with the name of Myers, old man Myers. And there he got word about O.B. Cochran killing Smith. And that was used in the trial. Well, O.B. Cochran never did come to trial.
What year is that?
Well, I don't remember what year that was, that was way back. But anyhow, Ben Bedford was the deputy sheriff and had been for years there. And he was sitting in his car one day. He had a T-model Ford and it didn't, on their driver's side didn't have no doorway, you know. And another guy was sitting there beside O.B. And they were sitting there beside a Max Brown's talking. But Ben had his gun laying down beside O.B. I've got you. And he did, Ben out of that gun and shot him. He put 3 bullets in his heart. They got rid of O.B. That's the reason why he never did come to trial. Of course, though, Ben Bedford later on his deathbed told about killing his first wife, getting rid of her so he married that Mrs. Maxwell.
What kind of work your father do?
He was an embalmer, Undertaker. He ran a funeral home in Talihina for a long time. He sold out and moved to Springfield, Springdale, Arkansas. They lived there about a year when Mother died.
When did they move to Arkansas?
I don't know. Let's see. I'm 28. I'd have to study about what year.
Did you ever help him in the
Oh, yeah.
embalming business?
Yeah. I was his main standby. I've pulled the aspirator many and many a time for the old man.
When did they begin embalming people?
When?
Yeah.
Oh, that happened way back on the Egyptian days.
I mean, today, they use all the embalming fluid and everything. When did they start with it?
Oh, I don't know. Dad went to school at Dallas, to Smith Brothers, to learn his embalming. And the first case I ever went with him was a little boy died with typhoid fever. Lived up on the hill north of town. I was 7 years old. I went with my dad up there. And
That was in Antlers.
that was at Antlers. And while I was there, he got me in there to help him. The odor of that typhoid fever body, the odor of the embalming fluid made me sick. I had to get out and vomit my head off. But I finally went back and we finished the job. And Forest Service, and I was living in the show. I was up there for a weekend. It was raining bad. I went up there and was visiting with Mother and Dad, and then we sitting there playing dominoes when the telephone started ringing. We started out. The first call was to the state hospital. The state had a TB hospital there, and then the federal government had a hospital there for the Indians. It wasn't very far apart. But anyhow, we started out. The first patient was from the state hospital. We got back to the telephone. Mother said they want out the government hospital. Before it was over with, we had 27 bodies laying in the morgue. Died with TB, of course. The change in weather was as bad on TB, and it killed them all. We had 27 bodies. So the next day, I worked my full self off helping Dad embalm all those bodies.
What kind of embalming fluid did you use back then?
Well, it's put out by Champion. It's a special fluid. You have an arterial fluid, and you have an abdominal fluid. We usually put that abdominal fluid into the belly with a trocar, they call it. And the arterial fluid would go in right in here and pick up an artery and hold it and put that tube into that artery there, block the other end of it, and start pumping that stuff in there. You see, some of the embalmers drifted in, but Dad pumped it in. He was giving up to be one of the best embalmers there was ever in that part of the country. He's the embalmer that first discovered a method how to embalm a stillborn baby. And he was even called to Kansas City to the embalming school in Kansas City to teach him how to embalm a stillborn baby.
How do you do it?
Well, I couldn't do it. All I know is the first baby that embalmed was my Harris. Harris was their last name, and he tried to keep his wife from doing it, but nothing but do that baby. Must be embalmed and buried just like anybody else. Generally a stillborn baby like that, why we just put him in the box, took him out and buried him, you know. No, she was gonna have a regular funeral with that baby, and she did. Dad embalmed the baby. That's when he discovered how to do it. And so he was buried there and had a regular funeral. They named the baby and buried him.
What was the name of the funeral home?
Huh?
Sorry, go ahead.
Bill's mother and father are buried at Antlers.
Yeah.
What?
What was the name of the funeral home in Talihina your father ran?
Talihina Undertaking Company. He sold out to an outfit, this from evening.
How long did you work with your father?
Oh, I just in and out. I never did work regularly for him. I just whenever I was around, he'd use me. I was going to left home.
What kind of coffins did you have back then?
Huh?
What kind of coffins did you have?
Oh, we had all kinds.
Wood, metal?
Wood, metal, and all. Had steel vaults, everything else.
What's the strangest case you worked on?
The nastiest mess was that old boy that had a bad case of syphilis. And he'd stood up down there below Antlers, below the old planer mill, and the number 4 passenger train hit him and killed him. It left the imprint of the pilot beam right in his chest, where it hit him and knocked him. The train crew said they never knew it, but he was, that's all juries would always take the railroad company where everything went along. If a cow brute got on the railroad track got killed, the railroad company had to pay for that cow.
When did you start working for the Forest Service?
Huh?
When did you start working for the Forest
First day of January 1929.
Okay. What'd you do before you went to work for the Forest Service?
I was in Tulsa in 28, worked for Tulsa Lumber Company.
What'd you do for them?
When I left the Tulsa Lumber Company, I was the appraiser. I was an estimate clerk and done all their glazier work, done all the glazing of windows and doors and so forth and so on.
You mentioned the Choctaw Lumber Company.
Yeah, that's Dirks.
Is that Dirks?
That's Dirks.
Did you know Old Man Dirks?
No, I never knew him.
They have the big sawmill at Wright City.
They had one at Wright City, had one at Broken Bow, and had one at Dirks, Arkansas. And they had one at Pine Valley, which later on up there. And they said the one at Pine Valley went down first, then the one at Broken Bow went down, and the one at Wright City, Weyerhaeuser owns it now, and Weyerhaeuser has that paper pulp mill there in Vantage, and they also have a mill out east of Broken Bow. They let the old mill at Broken Bow go to pot. It went down. They built a new one out east of Broken Bow just before it gets to the river.
Do you remember World War I?
Yes, sir.
What do you remember about it?
I remember very well. I was too young to get in to enlist in it, and the night that they celebrated it, I was in San Antonio, Texas, going to school. I graduated from Breckenridge High School in 1919.
Did you do any work for the war effort?
No, and I didn't. No.
What was it your daddy hit that anvil on?
Huh?
What was it your daddy hit the anvil?
That's when Dad was celebrating Oklahoma becoming a state. And when they celebrated, they used two anvils. They set this one down here, and they'd fill that hole full of black gunpowder, and they'd turn this other anvil over on top of it, and they had these long iron rods that they had one end of the fire. They'd get them hot, and they'd set that powder on fire, and blow that other anvil up there 50 or 60 feet high. Man, you could hear that noise for 25, 30 miles away. Well, my dad shot all the anvils. The night was celebrated. Oklahoma become a state.
Was that an Antlers?
And Antlers.
What else they do to celebrate an Antlers?
Oh, they all got drunk. Yeah, those Indians were. That's another incident I want to tell you now. I've been told that it couldn't happen, but it did it. I remember just as well as I'm sitting here. Those days there was a little plug train, a little local. It'd leave out of Paris early in the morning and come up through Antlers and it'd end at Fort Smith. Then in the night it'd come Fort Smith and go to Paris. Well, the Indians couldn't buy any liquor, in Oklahoma, so they go to Paris to get their liquor. Well, this Indian, he went down there. He was pretty drunk. He got on the train. He got to Antlers. He didn't wait for the train to stop. Those days, the coaches were all open-ended. You could just walk off of them anytime. But he didn't wait till that train come complete stop, and he fell. And the train run over one of his legs and crushed that knee all to pieces. But old Doc McGinnis, who stayed about as drunk as the Indians did all the time, he got a knife. I was with my dad at the time. And they took the Indian in there in the freight room, laid him on one of them carts. And Doc says, anybody got a sharp pocket knife? Well, my dad always carried one of those said office knives, little white knife. It said office knife, and he always kept it. Just like where you could really shave with. Well, Dad pulled that knife out. Let Doc McGinnis have it. He just thought he wanted to cut the clothes back. He cut the clothes back all right. Then he cut the flash back with it. And there was an old rusty handsaw hanging up on the wall. He told somebody to hand him that handsaw. They handed that handsaw, and he's got that bone into that old rusty handsaw. Then there was a second needle over there with just plain old cotton thread in it. He sewed that up with that. They took the Indian across the railroad track over there to Miss Sproul's hotel and put him to bed. Next morning he waked up. He said, look like losing leg. They loaded him in a little old hack of a cart, truck, pull wagon. They hauled him out to Findlay, 15 miles, right out in the boiling hot sun. And he killed anybody else but him. He lived over, and I remember seeing him years after that. He had a peg leg made. He died, he remembers seeing him a lot of times after that. Him walking around on that peg leg.
Did you know the Finleys and Antlers?
Finleys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I went to school with Helen, Irene, Charlie Finley was the old man on the hardware store there. And his boy Charles and I run around together a whole lot. I never did know of Bill Finley. He must have been Charles's boy. He must have been Charles's boy. But I don't remember him. I didn't know him. See, I left Antlers in 1921. I never did live there anymore.
Where'd you go in 21?
I come to Oklahoma City School.
What school did you go to?
I graduated from Carver Chiropractic College, 1923.
Who was in charge of that school?
George Evans was the business manager. Willard Carver was the owner.
So you become a chiropractor then?
Yeah, I became a chiropractor. I had state license number 254. I got in 1924.
How long were you a chiropractor?
I never did have enough money to set myself up in business school. I never could make a go with it. I tried time or two, but never did have the finances to carry me over, so I worked at other things. I got married right after I graduated from college in 23. I married my wife, and we went to Memphis, Texas. Thought I had a deal with Dr. Fitzgerald out there with him, and I was going in partners with him, and we he was sick, Steve. He called me to come out there. I went out there and straightened him out, got him on his feet, got him going. He decided he had his own practice. So I went down to Chillicothe, Texas, moved down there. In those days, the AMA was fighting us like hell in Texas. They were trying to put us out of business in Texas. And they'd arrest us, put us in jail, fine the devil out of us for practicing medicine out of license. Well, I'd been arrested twice, and my lawyer got me out of it. And I was getting tired of being the hassle. And the deputy sheriff who lived there, Chillicothe, he was a patient of mine. He come to me and told me, he said, Doc, he says, they've got a warrant for you. He said, I'm going to have to serve it one of these times pretty soon. He says, what are you going to do? I said, you give me 2 hours, me and my wife, to pack what we got. That's time for that train going east. I said, I'll be on that train. I said, you can have this damn country. Cram it where I can't. 2 hours later, my wife and I boarded that train. He come on into the platform and the train pulled off the other end. So they never did arrest me anymore. One of my classmates, they had him in jail at Quanah. He moved his adjustment table right in the cell with him. He done more business while he's in jail than he did on the outside.
Did you have any formal medical training?
Huh?
Did you have any formal
We
medical
didn't,
training?
we didn't have to have the formal medical. Didn't have any pre-med stuff those days.
You
It was
went
strictly
to
on
school
time.
3 years though, didn't you?
You went to school, what, 3 years?
Yeah, what's it called, 3 year
Yeah.
school. What is 3 years school, actually? 18 months. Just constant school.
Yeah, where'd you go to school?
Right here, 521 Northwest 9th was where the school was.
That's that chiropractic school?
Yeah, that's where that chiropractic school was. 521 Northwest 9th.
And then when did you move back to Oklahoma? Is that when you came back to Oklahoma?
I went after these 3 C's was over. I wound up in Claremore, became a ringer and dipper out at the powder plant at Shoto. And I think that's what set my lungs on fire, was breathing the fumes of a nitric and sulfuric acid as a dipper. Because I'd work an 8-hour shift lots of times, going home, go to shave and peel the skin off my face.
What does a dipper do?
It burnt you.
I mean, what do you do as a dipper? What was your...
You was putting the wood pulp or cotton linters out of a barrel down through a high head into a pot, mixing with 2,000 pounds of nitric and sulfuric acid. It was all pouring in and out together, and those fumes. You had a nitrometer mask, keep the splashes from burning, but it didn't keep the fumes from coming up under your mask. And that's, I think, what started my lungs. Trouble started my lungs. Of course, you wasn't allowed to even carry a match inside the plant. You know, but I said, when it come out, I'd smoke. And we chewed tobacco while we was in the plant. Smoked after we got out.
Now, you were making black powder at the...
We was making gunpowder for use in World War II.
Yeah.
Then I had a falling out with that. I quit that, and I went to work for Douglas.
Yeah.
And I worked for Douglas into 2 weeks at Douglas. I was made lead man, and I was working for Douglas. when the 3 Cs was over, why, the Forest Service wanted to send me to North Carolina or Florida. Forest Service did, and I told them I won't go there because that's too far away from my folks and my wife's folks. They were all alone. I won't go. So they got mad and transferred my civil service papers to the Soil Conservation Service. The Soil Conservation Service kept asking me, well, they want to send me to Panhandle of Texas, and I wouldn't go. So I was working for DuPont, for Douglas, when they notified me to report to Valiant. And so I had to get a release from Douglas to go down and report. I worked Soil Conservation Service down there. And from there I went to Springdale, Arkansas, and done carpenter work up there. And then I left there. I went to Brownsville, Texas, and became chief engineer of the Mercy Hospital in Brownsville, Texas. And I was there 6 years. But they changed administrators and new one, and I couldn't hit it all. She's crazy as I want to say good sense. One of the meanest white women I ever saw. But I quit down there. I come to Oklahoma and I went to work for Presbyterian Hospital on the maintenance crew. From there, I took over as chief engineer at Parkview Hospital, El Reno. From there, I went to chief engineer at the Youngblood Hotel at Enid. Me and that guy couldn't get along, period. He's no good, Bruce was. I quit him. And Blevins then, who was the chief engineer at Presbyterian Hospital, found out he wanted me to come go to work for him, take over his second shift. He couldn't get anybody to trust, he said. So I took his second shift for him. But I told him, I said, I've got my application in for some other job. And I said, any of them show up, I'll be leaving you. But while I was working for him, R&S Investment Company found out the head of the oldest elevator company here told R&S Investment Company about me, and they called me up and had me come down, and they interviewed me, and they hired me to take over as building superintendent of the oil and gas building. I worked there 10 years when I had to retire on account of my health. So I retired when I was 67 years old.
What year did you retire?
15 years ago.
15 years ago. Was there much poaching of logs over in southeast Oklahoma?
Poaching.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of poaching.
How'd you try to stop it? Or were you able to stop it?
I don't know. They bought them in there. There's nowhere. There's a lot of timber stolen, one way or another, down in southeastern Oklahoma. Early days.
What kind of timber would they steal?
Yeah, mostly pine. Mostly pine. Some hardwood timber.
tell me what an average day was like in the CCC camp?
Average day.
Yeah, like what time you'd get up and what you would do during the day?
Those boys were called out at 5:45 of a morning. They had to get ready for breakfast. They got breakfast. Then they answered. They came to their work crews there. They answered the roll call. We loaded them on trucks, took them out on the road. So 8 hours is all we could keep them, you see. And we brought them in and turned them back to the Army. The Army run them while they was in camp. We only run them when we had them out in the field.
What were your duties as supervisor?
Well, I had a lot of duties. I was the only registered blaster. I done all the blasting. I had charge of building old telephone lines. I had charge of clearing grubbing crew.
A grubbing crew, what's that?
That was grubbing around trees and all where the tractor could pull them. We'd cut the trees off high and then grub around them, cut the main roots, and so the tractors could pull them. I had charge of the fire hazard reduction crew. That was going by and cutting all the dead timber back 200 feet away from the road. And I'd done all the survey work. I was taught a school in forestry in the CC camp. I had to take all reports that went out of technical service and sign them before the superintendent ever saw them. And I had charge of the tool house. I managed that. The funny part about it was they didn't know I was in the back room of the office platting a lot of stuff that I made and survey work. When this Smith, this big inspector out of Atlanta, Georgia, come in there and he had this bullhawk with him who was the liaison officer supposed to be between the Oklahoma Forest Service and the government. And they had Ferguson and Bullhawk in there, and Smith was looking. He said, well, it looks like Ward is doing all the work around this office. He says, I don't see anybody else's. He come in, he was supposed to make out a daily worksheet of what he'd done during the day, you see, how many men he'd used, and so forth and so on during the day. Well, I had to check all that myself behind them and see that the technical clerk had it down correct, you see. And Smith said, well, it looks like Ward's doing it all. He said, I want every foreman in this camp tonight up in the technical office after supper. Well, we all lived right around there, and boy, that kind of threw the curve in some of them's tail because they didn't think that they didn't like the idea of being having to stay in camp. We was all in that night. Smith proceeded to chew. I mean, he chewed. And when he got done, he'd put Goss in charge of this, and Harrison in charge of that, and Barrick in charge of this, and me of this. He divided all the duties up. He said, Judd, when you come in here, off the road, and unload off that truck, your day's work's not done. He said, you got plenty to do from then on. He said, I want you to do it. He says, this idea, Ward doing it all, is a thing of the past. For the first time that Lagos signed that Form 10, which was a very long form, which was a triple check. It triple checked all the work that's being done. The first three they sent in was sent back because it was incorrect. I had to correct them. So I wound up, I had to take back Form 10. Well, they did leave Lagos in charge of the tool house. They made Porter Harris sign up for all the gasoline. Barrick did it all. They divided the duty. It wound up, I got out of some of it, but most of it I still had to do. Our superintendent. I was the only one that had any education. Our superintendent don't have a fourth grade education. But he had been an assistant to the civil engineer that put in the Kansas City Southern Railroad. And he'd learned engineering under that man. And then he'd been a civil engineer for Dirks and building a lot of those railroads they built back in there and spurs to all those logs out. So he was a camp superintendent. Well, Porter Harris run a grade team. Goss was a bridge foreman for Dirks. So I didn't belong to that clique, see. Yeah. Therefore, I wasn't considered in any.
Can you tell me what do you like best about the Forest Service when you first started working?
I always enjoyed pitting my wits against a forest fire, how best to handle it. And as I said, when I first went to Neshoba, the first season, I had 52 fires during that first fire season. So I was involved in planning my
Well,
mind.
it's all right. I'm just gonna tell him bye, and then I'm
Fire,
gonna
the first fire season. Well, I evolved a plan in my mind to get rid of some of that nonsense. So the next time I went down through Broken Bow on account of high water. I stopped the office and talked to Durrell and told him what I had in mind. I asked him if would the state pay for the mileage on my car for me to do that kind of work. He said, you go ahead and do it. We'll see how it works out. So the next fire season, I had 2 fires.
What exactly did you do?
Well, I contacted every man in my district, at least twice, sometimes 3 and 4 times, and talk to them, explain to them the mistakes they would make in burning the woods. And I got on the good side. They found out I wouldn't snitch on them for killing the deer, or I would tell where their whiskey still was hid. Of course, I was born and raised in that country, and I knew those people. I knew how to get along with them. And I got on the good side of them, and they got on my good side. There's lots and lots of times there'd be a package left on my front door. It'd be a hind quarter of a deer wrapped up laying there. I couldn't say a thing. I just go ahead and eat.
You ever have any trouble with the farmers in that area, or the ranchers?
Well, they were all little farmer ranchers, what they were. They all had little tomfooler patches, you know. There's none of that country right in there big enough to have a big farm, what you'd call a big farm, and what most people call tomfooler patches, you know. 10 acres here, 5 acres there, 20 acres there, somewhere else that they could farm, you know.
What?
The cattle all run loose. It was open range. Cattle all run free, you see.
What was life like in a tower?
I never did work in the tower, but while I was in show by, I enjoyed the time that I was a ranger in the tower. But when I got to Baptiste, it was rough. There was 3 families there. They were all kinfolks. They fought one another, but if you jumped on one, you had the other 2 to fight. So I had all three factions to have to deal with. So it was quite a problem out there to get along with. In fact, the man that had the trouble with the holder with Buddy Baker, when Buddy was ranging that territory, was named Holder McDaniel. Buddy caught him trailed him up from a fire, trailed him home from a fire, and got on him about it. Well, Holder made a run to go in the house to get his gun. He'd have killed Buddy Baker right there. Buddy jumped his car and run. It's a good thing he didn't, because Holder to kill him. So after they moved me over there, well, 2 or 3 weeks after I was there, Holder pulled up. I'd known Holder for years. But he and my dad-in-law had worked together in the tick eradication force when they was eradicating, doing all that tick dipping down there. But anyhow, Holder rode up my front gate and called me out. He was going to tell me about his trouble with Buddy. Holder, I don't want your side. I don't know Buddy's side. I've never talked to Buddy about it. I don't want to know anything about your troubles at all. I said, I'm here as a ranger in this territory to fight forest fires. Holder was a bad firebug himself, bad about that work. I said, that car out there sitting out there, every time that wheel turns over, I draw mileage on it. And I says, that's coming out of your taxes. I said, your taxes help pay the mileage on that car. It's helping pay my salary. If you want to burn the woods, that's your privilege. But I said, I'll be along trying to put them out. I said, I'll take my smoke station through. I had some guys that I hired there. There's a smoke station. So I talked to him that way. It was nice. For quite a while. Well, 2 weeks later, he rode up the front gate again and called me out. And he said, Doc, he said, I've been thinking a whole lot about what you told me in regard to this. He said, I've changed my mind. He said, I'll never step to the fire again. And he said, I'll shoot the first SOB I see setting them on fire. And he never did set the woods on fire anymore. His son finally killed him over his mother. The whole that bunch was mean. That McDonald bunch. They were mean. That Harris bunch was mean. So you had to watch. They were all intermarried in it. And all kinfolks. As I said, if you got a house of one, you had to fight the other two.
What part of southeast Oklahoma? What part of southeast Oklahoma has the best lumber in it? Best trees for lumber?
Best trees? McCurtain County had the best.
McCurtain County?
Yeah, it was down around the mouth of Mountain Fork, Little River, all down in there.
How come those trees were better?
They had the deeper soil, more moisture.
How many board feet did you get per acre in that area?
I don't know. I wouldn't know about that. I never did check, see. But I want to say this fellow Evans had the sawmill at Batiste, and all he did was cut big timbers. He cut walking beams for oil drilling outfits, mud sills. He cut the 3 what you call it, for a ferry boat across the Mississippi, gunnels. He cut the 3 gunnels for the one across, for a ferry boat across the Mississippi River. They were 36 feet long, 18 inches wide, and 24 inches high. And he had to hunt all over the country to find trees to make them out of. He found one tree that he cut 2 gunnels out of. And he found another tree to cut the other gun. When they got ready to deliver, they had to scout a route to get them over there, because the way they couldn't make short turns in towns, on highways, anything. So they had to scout a route out before they ever started to haul those gunnels to over on the Mississippi River, where they made that ferry boat across the Mississippi River. He had this sawmill there, and his truck was the one that had the head-on collision with Johnny Barrett when he got killed on the highway north of Broken Bow. Johnny they just had bought this new Model A station wagon, and he had 3 rolls of this number 9 galvanized BB steel, which weighs 155 pounds to a roll, and he had 3 big wooden barrels, oak wooden barrels, in the back end of this station wagon. And him and this boy started up to Carter Mountain, take this stuff up there to leave it. And the Model A station wagon quit on him. So he called in, and Darrell went up there with his coupe, and they decided they'd tow it back into Broken Bow to see what was wrong. Well, they had a little old 1/4-inch cable they was gonna tow it with. Well, they was towing it, and they just got around what we call the Clark Curve on the Broken Bow Highway when something went wrong with that station wagon. It locked or something and jumped out in front of that big Graham truck that Evans' driver, head mechanic, was driving north, taking it to Baptiste, and they just left the print of that Model A station wagon radiator right in the center of that Graham truck's radiator. Well, Johnny had broke all this stuff back here away, drove forward, ripped all the bolts that held the seat loose. The seat and all moved forward. Johnny's chest went up against the steering wheel and the post was all driven up against the dashboard. This boy that was riding with him, when the Darrell hooked on the pull, Johnny, he got in the car with Darrell. That's all that saved his life. He got in the car with Darrell, so Johnny was the only one who was in the station wagon. And that's the way Johnny Barrett got killed. Well, this Eva Townsend, she'd been the first wife of C.O. Doster. And they'd gone to Michigan after they were married. She didn't like it up there. She come back home. Her and Doster were separated. And she married a fellow named Townsend. He didn't last long. Doster then, he was arrested TB case. So he had to come back down there. He couldn't live in Michigan on account of the climate up there. He married a girl up there, come down there. They had 2 or 3 children. But anyhow, he was still jealous of Eva. He just couldn't stand the idea of seeing her date anybody else. And he watched her, they got hog was and the chicken, but anyhow, this Frankie Gibbs that made that picture of Carter Mountain Tower had a picture show in a van that he went around all them rural schoolhouses showing the Forest Service picture. He's the one that made that picture of me on that tower. And he went with Eva a whole lot, and all that just made Doster sit down and go mad. He chewed 20-penny nail into him and Doster had a big fight over close to the state line fight. That one night over there was all went in there on a fire. Him and Doster had a big fight over there. I didn't see it, so the boys was with Gibbs was telling me about it. His name was Frankie J. Gibbs. Frank Gibbs. I don't know whatever happened to him.
How were the trees cut in the woods?
Huh?
How did the men cut the trees in the woods?
They cut them with old cross cuts.
Bucksaw?
Old cross cuts. So.
What was the average diameter of the trees that were cut?
Oh. They cut anything from 6 inches on up.
They were
They said
cutting.
how big around were the trees, how big?
Well, I said everything from 6 inches in diameter on up.
Were they mainly pine trees?
Pine trees. Yeah, Dirks cut a lot of hardwood.
Yeah.
They cut a lot of hardwood. They used a lot of hardwood.
When did they first set up the first management of the trees?
Dirks never did really set up a management for trees. They never did. As long as I know anything about it.
What about the National Forest? Did the government ever force
The
them?
National Forest was all didn't come into the Comish Mountain and on south. See, Comish Mountain, the boundary between the National Forest and the other forest was Comish River, which heads way back up on the Arkansas line and comes down around Comish Mountain and heads south, which now forms a lake down there close to Yugo.
Yeah. When did they set up the Washita National Forest? When does that?
They had that Washita National Forest at that time. They had a Washita National Forest at that time, but I don't know much about the Washita National Forest.
Where's that that reserve that we was on down there? Who owned that?
Well, the game reserve,
Yeah.
that belonged to the state. Oh, he's still alive or not? He was assistant district forester at Broken Bowl, and then he became district forester there. And he was district forester there for years. Well, they moved the office all out north of Broken Bowl out on the hill where the tower is now. And he was there, and they finally made him retire. So I don't know whether he's still alive or not. If he is, he and I are the only two living out of the original bunch. Durrell was not in the original setup. Now this book says he was, but he wasn't. I don't know anything about these guys that he speaks of in here.
That's the book on the Perkin County.
Yeah, I just don't trust. See.
What about the old Choctaws down in that part of the country?
I was born and raised among them.
What were they
Yeah,
like?
I can talk a little Choctaw.
What were they like? The old timers, the old Choctaws.
The old Choctaw told you he'd do something, he'd do it. He was honest. Now the new Choctaw, I wouldn't trust him with a dime. They learned the white man ways. But the old Choctaw, now, I was going to tell you about the last Choctaw execution was at Elixir Springs, north of Riot City. I got to see that execution. I just a kid. My dad was traveling for the Spear Hardware Company. He was on his way to Eagletown, and we was in the buggy going across there and stopped at old Elixir Springs to spend the night. Because the Choctaws had tried this Indian under the Choctaw laws and had sentenced him to be killed. They gave him a year to go home and get his affairs all wound up and come back for the execution. Well, in the meantime, Oklahoma become a state. I know a lot of these guys. The United States government notified him not to have the execution. And the Choctaw says he tried under the Indian laws, he'll be executed under the Indian laws. So the government was going to send a bunch of troops down there to stop it. Well, the guide knew about when the execution would be over. He guided that government troops all over the country long enough for them to have the execution. election killed us. His name was Goins, and he was elected. He was shot right there at the old tree there at the Elixir Springs, where they've got a kind of a resort now. But he was executed with Choctaws in spite of what the government said. Forest Heritage Center, that's wrong.
You ever go to Boggy Depot?
Yeah, I've been there.
Ever go to the Allen Wright home?
No, I never did.
Is there anything left there now of Boggy Depot?
I don't know what's there. It's been years since I was there. Here in the State Forest Office, Broken Bowls opened after the agency was begun in 1926. They didn't build it. The first office was on South Park, an old doctor's office, Dr. G. 3 of the first 4 state foresters are shown above, with Dr. Albert Little, who did forest surveys in 1920 and again in 1981. Glenn R. Durrell Wright began his state career at Broken Bowl and was second state forester, succeeding George R. Phillips. To his left, Albert Engstrom. Far left was 4 state foresters. State forest employees. About 1950 include left front Curtis Johnson, Elmer Peebles, Octo and Billy Morgan. He was no good, period. Wilbur McClure, Otis Hall, he was a pretty nice old boy. But that Billy Morgan was no good. In fact, the matter, he still owes me money. He lost playing penny ante poker in our CC camp. He got to be superintendent camp in the right city for a while.
Is that a CC camp?
Yeah. I built a telephone line from my highway out to the game reserve for the camp that they had at the game reserve. I saw the largest whiskey still that is ever in the state of Oklahoma. It's right where Beaver Bend State Camp is right now.
How big was it?
1,500 gallon, flat bottom, copper pot. They fired it from both ends. Used a smoke, 10 longhorn cover for a smokestack. Now I'm going to tell you the story about it. I may get in trouble with the government.
Don't tell it if you might.
No, we don't use names.
But anyhow, I come in that night, and I was in the cafe eating my supper, and these 2 men was in the stall right behind me, and I heard them talking. They were 2 federal men. They was there to make a raid. They'd heard about this big pot. They was going to go get that big pot. Well, I heard them talking. Overheard what they said. So I had a friend there in Broken Bowl. I went to this friend, I said, you go out there. It belonged to Hob Beavers, who lived on the bank of the river there in Ochetown. I said, you go out there and talk. Hob, you get that whiskey still out of there, that they're going to raid him tomorrow. So he got in his car right quick, went out there, told Hob they moved the whiskey still and it was gone. The next day then when the federal men got out there, the whiskey still was gone. Oh boy, they come to they was fauncing mad. Well, Hogg thought maybe I'd turned him in. So he let the report out that he caught me alone in the woods, it's going to be too bad. So I got a little bit worried about it. So I went to this friend of mine, who was a friend of Hogg's. I told him, I said, I want you to go out there and correct the trouble with Hogg's. I said, he seems to think I turned him in on that big whiskey still of his. He just got in his car and drove out and told Hogg. He says, Ward's the one that saved your whiskey still for you. He told him what the story was. From then on, I had the damnedest time for a long time. I'd come in, I'd raise up, see in my car, they'd be anywhere from a quart to a gallon of whiskey under the seat of that car. Well, I couldn't afford to be caught with it because I'd lose my job. I went and told this friend of mine, you go tell Hogg to tell that man that worked for him, quit putting whiskey in my car. I lose my job if I'm caught with it. Well, they quit it. They quit it after that. There was one whiskey still out there. They had one of these little upright thrasher boilers. You remember? You ever heard of them little steam boilers that they used on the thrashing machine? They had one hid out there in the woods that made them steam the whiskey. And every day, 12 o'clock noon, you could hear it, toot toot, toot toot. Hear that whistle? It was wide. Whiskey making was wide open around Ochetown at that time. The sheriff, he wouldn't go out and try to get them down. The federal government wouldn't come in there because they wouldn't do anything. But I stood on Cornerstone Tower, which is right across the river from Beaver Bend State Park up there on that mountain. I stood on that tower and counted 27 smokes one day. Every one of them a whiskey still around that Ochetown area.
Well, I think we had a good interview.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So,
August 25th, 1983. This is Joe Todd, a follow-up interview with Mr. William Ward.
you ready?
I'm ready.
This happened at a man's home by the name of Helton, north of Octavia, the end of the road, just before you start up the main Kamish Mountain, as far as you could go, even with a wagon. That's as far. He lived back up there. So Johnny Barrett and Muncie Campbell and I went up there to work the telephone line that run on up to the tower. Put in the broken out insulators, cut back the brush that growed up around the telephone line. So we got there, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we worked a little while, and we come back to our pickup and got some clean clothes. And down behind the barn was a nice little hole of water. We went down there and took a bath. Come back, by the time we come back, old man Helton was sitting on his front porch in his chair. Miss Helton said she'd put us up for the night, you see. The old man sat there in his chair and introduced himself around. He was quite a comical old man. We heard all about him, a lot about him before we ever went there. But anyhow, at the supper table, when she hollered supper was ready, the old man grabbed his chair and run in there and sat down and went to eat. I mean, he went to poke it in. He didn't say, come in, boys, and ever see anything. He just went putting the food down. Of course, he got done long time before she could get us even started. And he got done eating. He's sitting there and he's looking at Muncie Camel. And Muncie was one of these long, tall, gawky Arkansas boys. And he had an extra long nose. I mean a long one. Next to old man Helen said to Muncie, said, Muncie, said, what made your damn nose grow so damn long? Muncie sat there a little bit. He come out, he said, well, Mr. Helton says when I was growing up, he said I made a practice of keeping my nose out of other people's business and give it a chance to grow. I don't remember, did I tell you about the big cottons, the big whiskey still? Did I tell you that?
I don't think so.
That's right where Beaver Bend State Park is now. It was owned by Bob Beavers, and it was a 1,500-gallon flat-bottom copper pot, fired from both ends with a 10 longhorn covered for a smokestack. We had a fire back west of there, and we cut it off and down to this Johnny Beaver's Branch Creek, as they called it. I told the boys, I said, you finish cleaning up, I'll go off down the creek and see if things all right down to the river down there. I run into this still, full operation. I mean, they had the whiskey coming out of it. And so I didn't take the boys down there. I didn't let them know anything about it. So Hob said he'd guard that and see if it didn't get away. So went in that night. I was sitting in the cafe eating my supper, and there's two federal men was in the stall right behind me, and they was talking loud enough I could hear them. They was fixing to raid that still the next morning. Well, I knew darn well I was in between a rock and a hard place, because if I didn't let Hob know, he'd swear that I turned him in, you see. So I went to a friend of mine that was a friend of Hob's. I told him, I said, you go tell Hob, get that damn still out of there and get it out in a hurry, that they're gonna raid him in the morning. The next morning they went there, there wasn't no still, it was gone. Now, I ain't getting so the federal government for this, for telling all this, but anyhow, the still was gone. Oh, the federal men mad when they come back to town. No whiskey still, none, it's all gone. I saw 5,000 gallons of whiskey sitting on Hob Beers' front porch. You see, Hob lived right there on the bank of Mountain Fork, right there before you crossed to go over to Oceantown. And in fact, the ferry boat would run right there when he had to ferry the river. But there was 5,000 gallons in barrels and kegs sitting on his front porch. Well, what had happened? Smack over Arkansas was running full blast at that time. They was doing all that oil business in Smackover. These trucks had come from Smackover. They'd come up there and load up at Hobbs, pull a wagon sheet over it, tied down. They'd come back in the Broken Bowl and eat their supper at this cafe there. And just as the sun was going down, they'd leave Broken Bowl going smack over a load of whiskey. Hob had 27 whiskey stills going at one time. He had one that was one of these little old upright steam boilers like they used to have on thrashing machine.
Yeah.
He had one of them back up in there. Every day at 12 o'clock noon, they say, toot, 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 toot. You can hear that dang thing blow all the time up there. That's
Now, were you in the CCC camp? doing
I
this?
was a foreman.
I mean,
and
whenever you found the steel and all that, was this?
I picked the location.
He was a forest servant. He was
Okay,
a
I,
it was a
ranger.
forest
see, I was a
ranger.
forest
Okay.
ranger.
Yeah.
At the Baptiste, in Baptiste. I lived in Baptiste.
Mm-hmm.
And
He was a forest ranger.
I was a
Fighting
forest
fire
ra-
up there in the,
forest ranger in that territory, you see. So, with Mr. Phillips, who was a state forester, and Glenn R. Durrell, who was a district forester,
you gave him all those names.
came to the house one day, and we went all down the woods, and they told me what was the prospects of getting this camp, and for me to find a location for it. Well, I picked this location. So when the big shots, the major and the major general, whatever it was, come out of Fort Sill over there, why, they just fell in love with the spot I'd picked. There was 2 holes of water there. One they used, the lower one they used for swimming hole for the boys. The other one they pump water out of to use for camp business, you see. And so that's the site, that's where the first camp was set in Oklahoma at Baptiste in 1935. That was in 33. 1935, we moved that camp then to Neshoba, Oklahoma, which is in Pushmataha County on the bank of Little River. And that's where it was till 41 when the seas all went out.
Yeah. Tell me about Pushmataha County.
Well, fellow named Smith was a deputy sheriff, and he had a whole bunch of warrants to serve in whiskey cases up there around Nola. That's up there east of Neshoba. Well, he went up there and, O.B. Cochran had him come stay at his place. He had a warrant for O.B. to arrest him for dealing in whiskey. But anyhow, Smith liked to play poker. So they don't have a poker game after supper. Well, they got in the room, and Smith had his nephew, a fellow named Buford, along with him. And so they started this poker game, and O.B. Cochran come out with a gun and shot Smith sitting right there. Well, Buford saw it. He took a high dive through the window, and rolled across the road and down the hill to the river down there. This steep hill there. He rolled in and swam the river, went over to old man Myers's and got word into Antlers about Cochran killing Smith. Well, Cochran was a coward unless you had a drink. When he'd had a drink or two, he was a real bully. But anyhow, they was all scared to go after him. And this little hare-lip Walter A. there, who lived at Clayton, the deputy sheriff, he said, well, I'm not afraid. He said, I'll go get the SOB. So he went over there and he arrested him. Well, when they come in that night on that little plug train that runs south on to Frisco at night, got into Antlers at 9, 10, and 9. Well, that station platform, I expect there was 1,500, 2,000 people on that station platform. There were guns of all kinds. Boy, if it had ever started, it'd have been a massacre right there. They intended to take old Cochran out and hang him, is what they intended to do. But they stopped and let him off. Took Cochran off on the other side, took him around, locked him up in jail before the people knew what happened. But it rocked along, changed county attorneys, and they put it off. But so this Ben Bedford, who'd been a deputy sheriff for a long time there, and he was sitting there. He had a T-model roadster. In those days, didn't have no door on their side. He had his gun laying here beside of him in his seat, and this other guy was sitting there talking to him. And old B had had a drink or two, and he come up and he had a drawn knife. And he says, "Yes, USOB, I've got you now." And he started to make a dab with that knife. He did. Ben Bedford up with that gun and shot him 3 times. All 3 bullets went through the heart. He shot him down right there. But then Ben Bedford, on his dying bed, told about killing his own wife. He killed his first wife, so he married this Ms. Maxwell. He married her later on, but he killed his first wife, who was an Indian.
Have they made a book about fishing Todd County?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I saw part of the fight between Doc Gilly and the Green Boys. The Green Boys were Indians. Doc Gilly was stabbed 47 times with a butcher knife. They took him to Paris, the hospital. He lay in the hospital down there for a long time. The Green Boys, one of them got his head split. They just pushed it back and sewed it up. He went blind from it. The other Green Boy got his leg split, knee split wide open. He had a stiff leg from then on.
How come they
Bill,
stabbed? Oh,
Bill, tell about it was an Indian that they,
I'm gonna get to that now.
okay.
how
I
come
wanna
they
tell.
were? How come they were after Doc Gilly? How come they stabbed him so many times?
Oh, he's old drunk. He's drunk, got his
Where did
eye.
that take place?
Right on the square, right in the corner of the First National Bank.
They were in Antlers?
There in Antlers.
What year did that happen?
Huh?
What year?
I can't tell you what year that was. A bunch of us young sprouts, 15,
About how
14.
old were you?
Now wait a minute, just quit butting with it. There's a bunch of us young sprouts, about 14, 15 years old, that every Sunday would go up in Welch and Welch's law office, which was upstairs over the First National Bank, which is now, they've tore it down, it's just a 1-story building now, but it was a 2-story building. But there was 5 or 6 of us young sprouts that go up there and play poker on Sunday. Well, I went broke. And as I'd come down, you come down the steps, then there's a long foyer in there before you come out to the street. And I could hear a commotion going on out there. So I eased up and looked out, and I could see them. Boy, I mean, they was going at it. Teeth and toenail, they were really fighting. Well, I ducked out there. I went north. I mean, instead of going towards home, I went north. I didn't want to be an eyewitness to any of it. I went up there 2 blocks, then cut over and went home.
Was that the Green Boys?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to see that witness against any of them, you see. But anyhow, I saw that fight. But now the one I'm going to tell you about is the one the doctors say is impossible. I was 5 years old. And Dad, I was with my dad, and we was going to town. He was going to give me something to bring back home to Mother. And we pulled up to the depot just as that little plug train going north stopped there. Well, this Indian was, those days the coaches were open-ended. They didn't have that closed. This Indian had been to Paris and he was still drunk. And he got off too quick. And he did, the train run over one of his knees and crushed it. Well, they picked him up and carried him in the freight room there. And old Doc McGinnis, who was about as drunk as the Indian was, he was there. And he asked Dad, he asked him, he says, anybody got a sharp pocket knife? Well, my dad always carried one of those little white pocket knives that said office knife on it. And his was always sharp as a razor. He just thought we just wanted to see it. Cut the clothing back out of the way. When Doc cut the clothing back out of the way, then he took the knife and cut the meat back with that same knife. When he got done cutting the meat back, there was a rusty handsaw hanging on the wall over there. He told somebody to hand him that handsaw. He took that handsaw and he sawed that bone off. And they pulled the meat back down and tied it up with a sacking needle with ordinary white cotton thread. They took the Indian across the railroad over there to old lady Sproul's hotel and put him to bed. Next morning he woke up. Said, looked like maybe so losing a leg. They loaded him up in the hack that afternoon now. Hot, dusty. Hauled him all the way out to Finley, 15 miles. And I saw him a many a time I had a peg leg made. And I've seen that Indian many a time with that peg leg.
Tell me some more what happened in Push County.
Well, Dr. A.C. Nash built the two-story building back before statehood days and rented it to the federal government for a courthouse. You see, he built this two-story building. Dr. A.C. Nash. Well, when it became a state, Dr. Nash donated that building and ground to Pushmataw County. And that was used for courthouse for years and years and years till they had a fire and burned it down. It was a case of why don't you the fire was. It's done to cover up some records that was in there. That was all it's done for. They were burned up. Those records, the other records wasn't hurt at all. They was a mistake. But anyhow, that's that. See, I was born and raised a block south of the courthouse on the east side of the street. Exactly where I was born.
How come they named the county Pushmataha?
It's named after old Chief Pushmataw of the Choctaw tribe. You will find that's in McCurtain County.
Did he come to Indian Territory, Pushmataha? Did he come to Indian Territory,
Yeah.
Pushmataha?
Yeah,
Where's he buried?
I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't he in the Battle of New Orleans?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Someone mentioned one time that he had some Indian volunteers and he fought with Andrew Jackson against the British in the Battle of New Orleans in 1814.
Nah, he could have been. I don't know. I couldn't say. Excuse me.
Antlers. It's the day President Roosevelt died, it blowed his old home and all the houses and all this cleaning.
Our old home, when that tornado hit the same day that President Roosevelt died, the tornado hit Antlers. They took the south half of that town, just swept her clean. And our old home, Mother and Dad had moved to Talihina, and they sold our old home. They owned a half a block there. And on that half block on the front was our home and the two chicken houses and a barn and a big garden spot. They swept that clean. I mean, there was places that even took part of the grass off the ground. The only thing you could tell that ever been anything on that half block, there was 3 fireplaces in that home, and there's a brick or 2 left where each one of them fireplaces had been. The rest of it swept clean.
Ever meet any of the outlaws? You used to go down to that part of the country.
Yeah.
Who?
Young
The younger boys? What were they like?
You would know
Tell me about them.
it. Hey, that's ordinary citizen, you think? I think it's a younger boy I met. The
But the-
youngest one of the younger boys. Let me tell you about that. You got me now. You're guessing there. Hold up on that. You know, that part of the country was pretty rough those days. Back when I was young, it was pretty rough territory. A lot of things went on. There was a lot of guys come in there, hide out like they did in Cookson Hills, you know. Cookson Hills and part of Pushmedog County was a whole lot alike. The outlaw would come in there and hide out, and the local citizens would protect them and take care of them while they was in there, you see. That famous gal, what was her name?
Bellstar.
Bellstar. She had a ranch down there, what we call the Falls, on Big Cedar there, close to Findlay. She had a ranch there, where she'd come down there and stay there once in a while.
About Robbers Cave.
Robbers Cave, she used that. I've been in it, and out of it time. It was just a stopover place for those on the Horse Thief Trail. Horse Thief Trail run down through there, you see. Going till they take those horses in Texas and sell horses they'd steal up here. They'd take them down there and sell them. Steal horses down there and they can bring them back up in this country and sell them, you see. And there's one place over there, north of Beeson, where they used going up and down that mountain so much, that trail, it was wore out deep enough. If you tried to ride a horse up it, your feet would drag the ground on each side. It just erosion, you see, it forced the trench down that mountain. It's just inside, just a little west of where the iron stub put there, but a topographical survey put down the corner marker between Arkansas and Oklahoma. Oh, and that reminds me, that topog map shows northwest of Neshoba, shows a creek that has no outlet. It's drawn on that topog map. Just shows a place about that long, creek, no outlet. Nobody knows where it runs. That topographical map. Mm-hmm. You know, they said it the way that a lot of that topographical work was done in making it was that they were sons and relatives and friends of congressmen had come down there in a group to do the work. They had 2 wagons. One wagon would be loaded with groceries, and the other was loaded with whiskey. They'd set up camp, and they'd making it, well, they always kept a good supply of whiskey on there, along with their groceries. Neshoba means wolf.
Wolf.
Wolf. Botuklo means 2 creeks.
Ma'am, are you from that area also?
No, I'm Ardmore.
Ardmore.
I was born and raised in Ardmore.
You were. What's your full name?
Vivi Lucille Ward, Meadows Ward.
She was a Meadows.
Meadows.
Ardmore has a history book out now. I haven't seen it, but there's a write-up about my mother and daddy and myself. Mother and dad came to Ardmore in 1905. They married in Gainesville, Texas, and they came to Ardmore.
Yeah.
My first wife and I, like just a little, been married 40 years.
40
When
years.
she died, and she was an invalid for 17 years before
Yeah.
she died. Now you talk into this thing.
Anything else on Push County you want to talk about?
Well, old man Green had a survey made at Timish River. He was going to build a big hydroelectric plant on Timish River just above Belzoni Crossing. They surveyed Timish River out the top, out there, to see how much water it would supply for hydroelectric plant. And old man Green took a liking to me. I helped him. I worked on building that new power plant he built out there. He took a liking. He was going to send me to New York University to learn to be an electrical engineer so that I could come back and be with that hydroelectric plant when they built it. But the old man dropped dead. And our thing dropped dead.
What year was that?
Well, that's back 1990.
1919.
Somewhere about that. I don't remember this exactly.
Mrs.
Yeah,
Warren?
I came back to San Antonio, Texas in 1919. I graduated from Franklin High School, San Antonio, Texas, 1919. I hadn't been back very long. I went to work with Mr. Green.
Was he in the Forest Service or? What was his job, Mr. Green? What did he do?
Green, he was the owner of the North Texas Power Plant. He had a big office in Dallas. He had a big electrical outfit in Dallas. He had two sons, Elmo and Chick. Chick was a mean little devil. He finally wound up in penitentiary. Elmo was the kind of boy you ever met, the oldest boy. But Chick was a little devil.
Who was the meanest man you knew in Pushmataha County?
Oh, I don't know. Two or three of them. I named some crooked that had socks all over the morning.
What about politicians down there? What were they like?
Some of them were good barrels today. I helped steal an election or two down there. I helped left Bob Smith when he district for first time he left district county attorney down there, district attorney.
How do you do it?
Always the one, the ropes. I wasn't supposed to be into it, but I working for the government. I've been caught up with. I go off my job and see how working for the government.
How did he steal the election?
I got $500 stuffed ballot boxes, so forth and so on.
How do you stuff the ballot box?
Got all these ballots.
You want me to tell about my folks?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they were married in Gainesville, Texas in 1905, October 25th. And they moved to Ardmore on December the 11th of 1905.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived there till they died. My father died in 40, and my mother died in 49. My daddy died in 57.
What was your father's name?
Walter Meadows.
What was your mother's name?
Effie B. Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
Norton was her
And when's your birthday?
Mine,
Yes, ma'am.
March the 1st, 1908.
1908. Tell me about Ardmore. What the town looked like as a child?
Well, I, it was just a good town to live in. The main street was wide, and I don't remember too much about it. I do remember when the explosion, we had an explosion there that someone on the railroad was checking these tank cars, and he struck a match, and it blew up and just blew the town up. And the first I really remember much about downtown, I was 5 years old, and I remember walking down Main Street, and the bricks was, this covered the whole street. And
What year was that? When did that happen?
1914.
1914.
See, I was just 6 years old. I wasn't 6 years old, hardly. And my dad was in Rock Island Depot. He was driving a transfer wagon, and he had horses at that time to the wagon. And he was blown from the center of the depot out in front of the horses, and on his all fours when he come to. And he jumped up. Those horses was making a lunge to run off. He said they just had their legs just ready to go. And he got in the wagon and drove 2 blocks up the street and tied his horses up and started back down the street. They said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "I'm going back to the depot and hunt my glasses and hat." And they said, "Oh, don't, there may be another explosion any time." And he said, "I've got to have my glasses before I can see anything." And he went back and found his glasses folded up on the floor of the depot, but he never did find anything.
There was a convent in Ardmore. You familiar with it?
No.
A Catholic.
I remember. I remember
Yeah.
about it, but I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember Armistice Day in Ardmore when World War I ended?
I remember my daddy going to the door and shooting a gun. That's all I remember. But I have a sugar bowl and cream pitcher, and I have a salt and pepper shaker that a woman gave me. She was they were moving from across the street over in a little house in our backyard, and she gave those to me that day.
Let me see.
That's all I remember about the Armistice Day.
Yeah. Now, when did you meet Mr. Ward?
I met him 20 years ago, the 7th of this month.
63.
Met him right there at my front door with a watermelon on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And when did y'all get married?
4th of October.
October 63.
It'll be
It's
20
Met her
years.
on the 6th of July.
No, August.
Uh,
No, it's August we married. We met in August and married in October.
Let me see.
I was thinking it was July when okay, I'm on. Local.
Mrs. Ward, what kind of work did your father do?
He was in building material business, furnished rock and sand and gravel for
Yeah.
buildings. The city hall there, there's every bit of sand and gravel and rock that went in the building come from my dad's yard.
Yeah.
He was in building material business. Well, he worked for the railroad until 1917, and then he he bought him a team. At first there wasn't any trucks hardly then, and he drove a dump wagon where I don't know whether you know what it is or not, but they raised planks anyway, and the gravel fell out through the bottom of the wagon.
Okay.
And then as soon as trucks came in, my dad got a truck. He had 3 trucks running. And was I guess by 1919 he was, 1918 he was in the in the building material business, but by I guess he got his first truck in 1920.
Yeah. What was Ardmore like in the 1920s?
It was a pretty good
Just a
town.
little, it was supposed to be, I guess, a good town. I don't remember too much about it.
Were there many flappers in Ardmore?
I guess it was. I really don't know.
Did you bob your hair?
Oh, yes.
What'd your father say about it?
He cried. Mama didn't. Another girl and I was chumming together, and we had pretty long hair, and we cut this little bit of it off, and a little bit of it off every day until it got so short we couldn't do it up. And so Mama told me to go get my hair cut. So I went to the barber shop, got my hair cut, and Daddy come home, and then he went outside of the house and was supposed to be reading the paper, but he's crying.
Did you wear the short dresses?
Yeah, I guess I wore dresses short and long too.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Kodak pictures. I guess I was about 16. They wore them down to the ground.
Mm-hmm. What'd you do for recreation in the 20s?
I went to dances.
She was dancing, but
I was going to dances when I was 12 years old.
Yeah. In Charleston?
Yeah.
What were the popular dances beside the Charleston in the 20s?
Oh, a foxtrot and a waltz.
Hmm.
I didn't know what a square dance was until I was 20 years old, I guess. But I went to lots of dances here in Ardmore.
Let me see. Mr. Ward, anything else you want to talk about?
I think that there was something else something funny I wanted to tell you about. I can't think of what it was now. You know those things, old man of mine. Get that picture for him, sweetie. This picture was made while I was in the hospital, not expected to live. I had pneumonia and endocarditis. I lived 10 days in an oxygen tent in Dr. Earl Woodson's hospital at Port Oklahoma. Where's that big picture?
Well, I want to show him this. There's my daddy when he was running the cool oil wagon back in about 1906 or 7.
Oh, is this an Ardmore?
Mm-hmm.
That's a coal oil wagon?
Yeah.
Huh.
Coal oil and gasoline. Daddy sold gasoline to the first car in
Yeah.
Ardmore.
Who had the first car in Ardmore?
I don't know. It was a doctor.
Yeah.
And he wanted to take his wife riding one Sunday. And he got in the car and he said, drove out from the, and was going to park in front of the house. And he didn't know how to stop, and he went around the block. He said, I'll be back in a minute, honey, and he went around the block. I'll be back in a minute. He went around the block. He kept going around the block till he ran out of gas. And there's my old nigger mammy.
Siggy? Aunt Lizzie
Yeah.
died in 1914.
And there's me. It's another picture.
That's a good picture.
I guess this was my first sweetheart.
Those are good pictures. What school is this?
It's second floor.
One incident happened up that time at Smithfield. Old man Chatham, boy, he's mentioned in that book. His grandfather run a ferry boat across Mountain Fork River there at Smithfield. The old man was quite a fisherman too, and he caught a 46-pound catfish. So he's going to invite all his friends in for a big fish fry. He got them all there and all. They went to dress the fish to get ready to cook it. They cut it open, and that old fish had swallowed 6 puppies. Somebody drowned 6 puppies up there. Huh. And the fish had swallowed all 6 of them puppies. The old man said, roll them up and take it down and throw it in the river. No, they didn't have no fish.
Yeah.
That's my granddaddy, and he was born in 18 and 18.
What's his name?
Norton.
Norton. Where's he from?
I really don't know. He was at Gainesville. You know, my grandmother and grandfather lived there, but I don't know where he originated from. But they're saying he was born in 18 and 18. March the 8th, 1918.
There's another. That's company 876. That's when it was in the show.
Now, are you in this picture?
No, I was, as I said, in the hospital, not expected to live when that picture was made. I had pneumonia, endocarditis. I spent 10 days in an oxygen tent and sulfur drugs.
Yeah. Who were the officers with this company? Do you remember?
Oh, they change them ever so often. I can't tell you. There's a Captain May, Captain Ledbetter.
You know who these guys are in the picture?
Some of them I can. This is Mr. Ferguson, who was superintendent of camp. And
Mr. Ferguson.
And go down the line. It'd be hard for me to tell.
Who's this officer here, the captain?
I don't know. That looked like Captain Ledbetter.
Captain Ledbetter?
I think, I don't know.
Was he from Fort Sill?
You know, they had a funny setup during the war.
Mm-hmm.
Before the war, when they had all this. They had a lot of reserve officers that they sent around to be in command and assistant commanders in these CC camps. They wasn't in the regular army. They was the reserve.
Yeah.
As to what they know, I don't know.
You want to show him this?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, I don't want, we wouldn't want this to leave the house.
Yeah, right. Family record.
It's on her side of the family.
On who? It's
Oh,
on your
it's
side of the
the Ward
family.
family.
It's on your side of the family.
Oh, yeah. You see, it starts way back there, 1875.
Yeah, is this your father here?
That's
Willie?
William Ward. born 1875.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. That's nice.
That CC picture you can have it.
Okay.
I don't want it. Down below, where this ferry was the longest, biggest fish trap that was ever built in the state of Oklahoma. Was on on Mountain Fork River. It's 125. You could take a fish off the back end of it with a 25-foot rise on the river. That's how high that fish trap would go.
Mm-hmm.
You could be on the tail end of it, up there, take a fish off. The river had a 25-foot rise on it. I saw a 20-foot wall of water come down that creek all at one time. I had my mother-in-law and my wife. We was all fishing right there where the bridge goes from Smithfield on towards Cove.
Mm-hmm.
We was fishing right there, that old water. And I happened to look up and come around the curve up there with a big wall of water. I mean a big one. I grabbed my wife in one hand, my mother-in-law the other, and drug them up the hill. That ride with that fishing tackle, it all washed away. Everything else, we just barely did get out of there. By the time we got to town, that river done backed up that little draw clear up to Latham's, what was called Latham's store then.
What year was that?
That was 1924.
Well, Mr. Ward, thank you.
Yeah?